Go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alrighty, guys. Good evening and welcome to the ICP Squad show. I'm Victor, ICP Squad. For everybody joining us, welcome to the show. I'm glad everybody is here to join us. We have two very special guests today, Egido Val and lastmjs. So, guys, can you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let's start with Jordan, lastmjs.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Jordan, lastmjs on Twitter, founder of Demerchant Labs. We're working on bringing TypeScript, JavaScript to Python and GraphQL to the internet computer. So happy to be here.
All right, perfect. And Egido, can you reintroduce yourself for those that haven't met you yet?
Yes, sir. I'm Egido Val. I'm an artist. I'm the creator of IC Bags and Walk Me Dystopian, and I'm happy to be here.
All right, excellent. So thank you guys for joining us. The topic for today, and I'm very excited about this, is there's been an update on Dfinity, on the Internet Computers protocol. I guess that's what you can call it. And it is HTTP outcall. So first of all, I want to say I'm not a programmer. I'm not a developer, right? I'm an enthusiast. So while I do understand the implications of this new technology or kind of like what it does, I don't fully understand everything, which is why I invited Jordan. I've seen Jordan post things about Azle and how we're going to implement things like, I think, Python, and maybe I think you mentioned JavaScript into the internet computer. So I wanted to invite people that know a little bit more than I do about this. But from what I understand, HTTP outcalls is something that's going to allow Web 2.0 to communicate with Web 3.0, or vice versa, Web 3.0 communicating with Web 2.0. So from what I understand is, number one, which is the title of the video, right, is Chainlink dead, right? We no longer need oracles or another party in order to get information from Web 2. The ICP can now get that information directly from Web 2, which can lead to things like sports prediction or real life prediction events, prices directly from APIs and stuff like that, which I think is huge. But I want to let you guys talk about it, and especially Jordan, because I know you are more of a developer. So, guys, can you go ahead and tell us what you know, or what does this mean for the ICP and the ICP community to have HTTP outcalls? Jordan?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, HTTP is one of the most fundamental protocols on the web stack, I guess. It's really the main way that you can compose Web 2 applications together, and it's led to the amazing landscape of Web 2 companies that we all know and love that have basically taken over the world. Web 3 is a little bit in its own domain. When you have smart contracts, they generally don't communicate with other smart contracts over HTTP. In fact, it's very difficult for a smart contract on one blockchain to do any kind of communication securely with smart contracts or decentralized applications on any other chain. So being able to perform an HTTP request from a Byzantine fault-tolerant environment like a blockchain, like the internet computer, or if you could do it on Ethereum, that would just be absolutely fantastic. It would make it so that you don't have to just communicate with other smart contracts written, for the blockchain that you're working on. And how the blockchain space has tried to solve this problem is with, I guess you can call them oracles. That's more of a general term for the idea of, a source of data, I guess, outside of your blockchain. But how they've done this is with oracle providers like Chainlink, and there are other providers as well, which kind of create their own blockchains in a way. They create their own Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus around a certain specific set of HTTP APIs, more or less. So, for example, Chainlink has many, many different Oracle networks that are all designed to come to consensus on their own set of APIs. So a lot of them are basically price feeds from centralized exchanges. and you'll have, for example, for the ETH USD price feed, you have like 31 nodes. You need something like 21 of them to come to consensus on an answer to be able to post it to the Ethereum blockchain. And so Chainlink is very secure, very effective at what it does, and a lot of projects are depending on it. But from what I understand, it's kind of cumbersome to use, I guess in my experience, which I haven't done tons of things with Chainlink, but I'm extremely familiar with it and try to learn a lot about it. So it's relatively expensive. The fact that you're writing data onto Ethereum is going to be very expensive. Anytime you want a new Oracle network, like a new data feed, somebody has to spin up that infrastructure, and you might be able to reuse nodes across Oracle networks, but you have to have basically an Oracle network per feed. And yeah, it's just, there's basically a whole blockchain, whole framework that is designed to solve this problem. So the internet computer, by launching the HTTP outcall feature, our smart contracts, or our canisters, our decentralized applications, will be able to make essentially any HTTP GET or POST request. And there's some caveats to that, but generally speaking, general HTTP functionality. And the canisters will be able to rely on the Byzantine fault tolerance of the internet computer itself for security. So we don't have to spin up, application-specific networks just to do this HTTP request feature. Basically, every single subnet and every canister is going to be able to perform its own HTTP request and basically become oracles unto themselves if they want to.
All right, so that's great. One of the things that I've heard a lot from especially Chainlink enthusiasts, they're saying Chainlink is not dead. This doesn't replace Chainlink. Chainlink still is the biggest or something like that. So can you tell us more, like, does HTTP outcalls on the internet computer, does that replace Chainlink? Like, is Chainlink over or done with this new feature?
Yeah, I mean, we can't, I think it'd be foolish to just say 100% Chainlink is done. Chainlink is an amazing project. It's very secure, very useful. But I do think there is a possible future where Chainlink becomes less and less necessary, at least within our ecosystem at first. And over time, as we build up our own oracles instead of Chainlink, using the HTTP request feature, we might see that it really isn't necessary to use Chainlink. We might see that it's much cheaper and possibly more secure to do it the way that we're doing it. And we might be able to build providers similar to Chainlink on the internet computer, but I guess much cheaper, which much less software and hardware infrastructure necessary just to provide that functionality. So it is possible. I don't think we can say that absolutely Chainlink is dead, but I think that it is a possible future that we don't need Chainlink. So it's possible.
Thank you. That's kind of like what I wanted to know. So I first of all, let me start saying some good things about the Chainlink community. I think the Chainlink community is one of the best and most fun communities. I really like their sense of community, right? So I'm not anti-Chainlink or anti-Chainlink community, but I do realize that some features can make it to where Chainlink is no longer necessary. Even some of the people that I know that are ICP enthusiasts, that are also Chainlink enthusiasts, what they've said is that it doesn't mean that Chainlink is dead. It simply means that there is going to be less, if any, reliance from ICP onto chains like Chainlink. So it's not necessarily like a completely, like Ethereum killer type of deal or Chainlink killer, but it's more like our ecosystem will no longer necessarily depend on Chainlink. Rather, it has its own type of communications. With that being said, Egido, is there anything you want to say about the HTTP outcalls?
Well, like everyone knows, I'm an artist and I'm not a programmer, but I'm always curious about how can we use these technologies in order to create new projects that make use from it. I mean, even I'm not a programmer, I can see many possibilities with all these things, and I'm curious, and I would like to hear from Last about what kind of ideas do you think will make more sense to use merging like the NFT concepts with these HTTP calls, and yeah, just curious about how can we take advantage of that in our projects?
Yeah, so on the NFT side, just an idea to throw out there, you could build HTTP requests directly into an NFT so that, for example, the art changes based on real world events. So some NFTs I think already do this, like the BTC
Yeah,
flower, petals
yeah,
change, but I think it's mostly done on the front end, so it's not necessarily absolutely built into the NFT. Well, it kind of is.
yeah.
The point is you could do that from the canister instead of just relying on the front end. So that could be interesting there.
Yeah.
That's the main thing
Can
I
can I ask something? From the pricing perspective, using that will be much cheaper than using something like Chainlink or
I think so.
yeah,
I need to really look at the numbers to know for sure, but
yeah,
I just imagine it's going to be quite a lot cheaper than Chainlink because, I mean, Chainlink has to pay all the node operators just for that price feed,
yes.
and they have to pay the Ethereum gas fees or other blockchain gas fees on top. So I feel like we'll be able to, I don't know if the right word is amortize the cost on the internet computer more easily.
Can you guys imagine like a Wojak NFT, and when the price goes up 20%, it turns into a green Wojak with the arrows,
Yeah,
and the price
that
goes
will
down
be
and it turns
fun.
into a pink Wojak. that'd be
Yeah,
that'd be
that
funny.
makes
So
sense. Yeah.
so one of the I've been following Jordan. Do you want us to call you Jordan or Last MJS?
Whatever. Maybe
Okay.
Jordan's easier for
Jordan.
now.
So
Okay.
I've been following Jordan on Twitter for quite some time now, and like I said, I'm not a programmer, so I mean I know there's something called JavaScript. I know there's something called Python and all of that, and I kind of when I see posts from him and from developers that work with Dfinity, I get the gist of what they're saying. Right, I can't actually implement it or tell how things are done. However, I kind of like okay, this can be used for this can be used for that type of deal. But something that got me really excited, and I don't know if Jordan wants to talk to us about this. I included this in one of my videos. I don't remember what video it was. I think it was my most bullish scenario for ICP. But basically, what Jordan is working on, from what I understand with Demergent Labs, is something called Azle. Am I pronouncing this correctly?
Azle is how I pronounce it.
Okay, Azle. So something called Azle. That's the thing where you're reading. So something called Azle. And what I understand this is, Azle, is kind of like a translator that takes Python and other languages that are commonly known by so many people. I'm willing to bet millions, and then translate that into something that can operate on the internet computer. So why does that get me excited? I know a lot of people get excited with NFTs. I get excited with NFTs too, of course. But whenever I see stuff like this, that maybe doesn't have a lot of hype behind it. HTTP outcalls is I definitely I didn't see a huge price increase with HTTP outcalls, which is hold on, somebody's calling me, but I didn't see way too much hype with HTTP outcalls as much as, for example, Bitcoin integration. But I think HTTP outcalls and Bitcoin integration are kind of very close in what can happen, but without digressing too much, can you tell us more about Azle, Jordan, and kind of what that number one, what that means for the internet computer? For example, I think it's going to cause way more developers to join and start building on ICP, but also how can Azle kind of implement HTTP outcalls. I did see some posts. I didn't understand exactly what you were saying completely, but can you tell us how Azle is going to take advantage of HTTP outcalls and how that is going to kind of benefit the internet computer, the price, and the users?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about price, but I'll talk about basically everything else. So, Dimension Labs is working on 3 main projects. Azle is basically our flagship project at this time, and it lets you write TypeScript and JavaScript, and very similar to what you said, basically translates it down into Rust, and then that gets converted into WebAssembly, and then that can actually run. Why is that awesome? Well, there are millions of developers who love JavaScript and love TypeScript. Possibly the most popular language in the world, programming language in the world. I mean, all the software we're using the front end right now, it's running JavaScript, right? So you can use it to write the front end, you can use it to write the back end. Node.js is also one of the most popular back end frameworks ever created. So that's what's exciting about it, is that you don't have to come and learn an entirely new language like Rust or Motoko. You can just bring the knowledge that you have. So that's the main benefit. Kybra is the Python CDK, so it's going to be the same thing, just for the Python ecosystem. And yeah, it's just a lot easier to get started with something if you can use the language that you already know. So the idea is to allow you to do anything that you could do in Rust or in Motoko. So that's including doing these HTTP requests. So JavaScript and Node have really good support for doing HTTP requests. It is the language of the web, basically. So yeah, we are building the same functionality into Azle so that you can come and just use the language use tools that you're used to. Right now, you have to use kind of the bespoke HTTP API that the internet computer provides, which isn't as similar to something like window.fetch that you'd find in Node or in the web browser. But I think over time, we'll move to having, if possible, an identical API so that whether it's Node, the browser, or the internet computer, it basically is all the exact same code. And so, yeah, that's basically the idea.
All right, excellent. So I'm really excited about this. It's that type of like little things that don't have like way too much hype, but are really big deals that get me excited about the internet computer. So I'm super excited. When it comes to me, I'm not a developer, but some of the ideas I get. So for example, prediction markets. So things like elections, you can have kind of like a election gambling or something like that on the internet computer using ICP tokens. You can have like sports betting, probably something like that. So you connect to the websites that give the results for sports betting. There's so many things. I mean, even email, right? You can send emails to regular emails. And I don't know. I don't even know what else I can imagine. But Egido, do you think HTTP outcalls is something that is going to affect NFTs and specifically your NFT collections? Do you think we'll ever see like IC bucks connecting to some outward information and have them change or anything like that, or a future collection or something?
Well, I think it's very interesting because art, I see art as not something which is static, so, and it's always changing. So using it in a way that makes sense conceptually and visually, I think is pretty interesting. But I also want to say, Jordan, that I think that what he's doing is very smart because this idea of being able to use something that people already know with ICP is very important for adoption because there are many people from outside that I think that if they don't see this kind of tools, they can become lazy or something like that. And these kind of projects are for me, I think, are key to the success of ICP as a platform to be able to not be limited by what you by just having to learn everything from scratch and using all those tools. I'm not a programmer, but I can really see the bright future coming from that. So I want to say thanks to him, because I think it's very important to keep that approach, and it's something that every project can benefit from for sure.
Yeah, thank you. We are excited. We're working hard, and yep, we are just gonna keep working, kind of no matter what happens in the next year or two. So
Yeah, I think
So
that. Sorry, no, I just want to say that
go ahead.
I think that's the mentality, right? Like you have to keep working, even when market does whatever. It's more important to focus on projects and getting them done rather than only focusing on price and all that. I think it is very important to keep building and doing all these things. So yeah, props.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that gets me excited is I don't want to say bear markets get me excited, but bear markets in a way are also like a filter where there's a lot of things that are nice and then there's things that have actual utility. And during a bear market, a lot of the fuzz and the sound and the distractions kind of start getting faded away, and then you're left with basically developers. So right now on my Twitter feed, I'm scrolling through the ICP Twitter feed, and of course I see the OGs, the enthusiasts like myself, who are still, holding strong. Like I'm still 80-year gang, and I haven't pressed that dissolve button. I don't plan to for another 3 years, maybe 2.5, 3 years. But I get very excited because I'm scrolling through my feed and I see people like Jordan talking about HTTP outcalls, Azle, I think I'm saying it right, Azle using basically translating popular languages or popular programming languages into working on Web 3.0. And then I see other developers from Dfinity talking about the same thing. And whenever I start seeing things like HTTP outcalls and all of these kind of like programming things, I get very excited because it tells me we're doing good, right? We're building. ICP is not just a hype project. It's not just fun images, which I'm all for fun images. I love NFTs and I love
Yeah.
hype. I'm a firm believer that even having just volume for speculation is a utility, right? A lot of people don't believe that. They want the token to do something, but I do believe that if a token has a lot of volume and people like it a lot, that is utility in itself because you can speculate, right? Speculating and or gambling is a utility. But nonetheless, I'm so happy to see stuff like that, like HTTP outcalls. I would like to hear more from Jordan about Azle and maybe a little bit more about HTTP outcalls. And if you know, because I'm sure he is more informed than I am, what is already taking place that you know of on the ICP ecosystem using this new feature? If I'm not mistaken, it just came out like yesterday or 2 days ago. So, Jordan, do you know anything that's already going on with this feature or projects that are already implementing this?
yeah, I've heard of a few things. So it's been in beta for a bit, I think a few months. So I think people have been playing locally. For example, I built in Azle, I built a kind of an oracle to the Chainlink oracles on Ethereum. So I was able to do HTTP requests into the Ethereum blockchain, grab the Chainlink data that I was putting there, and I was able to use like 3 independent providers, come to a simple consensus on that in my canister, and then present you a price feed. So that was just a simple example of basically integrating with what's already there and being able to talk to Ethereum. So that's really awesome. That's just prototype. Then a few projects that are actually trying to launch. Finterest, I think that's what they're called. I'm pretty sure they're planning to use the HTTP outcall feature possibly for their stablecoin. And then there's something called IC Oracle, or unfortunately, I don't remember the exact names of these projects, but there's actually a project trying to be a Chainlink-like provider, but using the internet computer tools to do it. And it sounds like HTTP outcalls are going to be pretty fundamental to what they're doing. So we have people trying to use these tools already. Basically, anytime I can see that it might be useful, I try to push for it. So hopefully psychedelics, terabithia. Hopefully, eventually, it can use HTTP outcalls instead of AWS, like they're going to be using, I guess, at their first launch. Also, on the NNS, the exchange rate mechanism right now is just like a proposal's made every 10 minutes to tell you the ICP XDR price that helps with the conversion from ICP to cycles. They're replacing that entire process with a system canister that will just use HTTP requests to go out to, I guess, multiple centralized providers of that pricing data, and it'll come to consensus on its own, and we can basically replace an entire pretty janky piece of the NNS with this feature. So those are a few things.
That's nice. Now that you bring that up, it gets me to this next thing that just popped into my head. Now that we have access to outside information that can directly be integrated into the blockchain, I think this is going to bring about kind of like a new era of stable coins, right? So we have many stable coins, USDT being probably the most famous one that I have a lot of faith in, USDC, and then the Terra the Terra Luna one that, you know, that's really bad. It's really sad. I laugh not because it's funny. I laugh because it's nervous, right? A lot of people lost money. I lost a little bit of money on that. But with the internet computer, I think we can see a future where stable coins are attached to some sort of asset or some sort of value. And that asset doesn't necessarily have to be a physical asset like a bank account with US dollars in it, or even some sort of commodity. I think it can be attached to computing power, right? So I think with this new HTTP outcall, we are going to see a future of cycle based stable coins on the internet computer. Now, to further expand on this, I don't think that is entirely possible on a large scale today. I know cycles, you can already use them, I think, on Sonic.000, or like I say, Sonic.ooh. But I know you can already use cycles and you can store your money kind of on a DEX that way to change them back into ICP. But if you look at it at a large scale, there's not a huge demand for cycles as of yet. But I think once the burn rate of ICP goes up and there is a huge demand for cycles, I think we are going to see cycles and maybe other forms of stable coins on the internet computer. And I would like to see that. So far, the only, other than using cycles themselves, the only other stable coin that I've seen on the internet computer is one called like ISSHT or something, which I don't know if it's a play on word on SSH, the programming thingy, or or I shit or something like that. I'm not sure, but that's the only one I've seen from these memes that are making like little poops. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think, Jordan, especially also Egido, that we will see kind of like more stable coins now that we have this access to centralized information going directly into our blockchain? Do you guys think this will be kind of like the birth of more stable coins on the internet computer, or internet computer based stable coins?
Do you want to answer first?
Well, the thing with stable coins always is this place where it tends to go south very fast. So I'm not very like I'm not very positive about the stable launching like 100 different stable coins, because I think that can be a problem. So I'm more I'm more into other things like I said, like more creative ways. I like the concept of using all this computing power and all those possibilities to create new concepts, not only like recycling all concepts, but taking advantage of all the possibilities from the internet computer. And I think that's very important. And in my case, I can see all these things coming together and creating like new concepts that doesn't necessarily fit a category, but are a mix between, I don't know, NFTs with other things on the side, all these things. So, like I said, I'm not very fond in the stable coins, but I'm pretty sure this technology can be used into many other things that are more positive.
So what I want to see on the internet computer with stablecoins is an absolutely rock solid stablecoin natively ported. That would be like, in my opinion, one of the best case scenarios. So personally, USDC is my favorite of the stablecoins. It's compliant, it's regulated, it's rock solid, it works amazingly well. It has almost a top market cap for stablecoins. So if we could convince Circle to issue on the internet computer, I think that'd be awesome. Now, without convincing Circle to do that, or Tether or whatever, any of these centralized ones, having the HTTP request feature is possibly a way to start porting these stablecoins from Ethereum or other blockchains right now over to the internet computer, because we are able to read from Ethereum using the HTTP request feature. So doing that combined possibly with the threshold ECDSA feature, which lets you sign Ethereum transactions, we might be able to start porting some stablecoins that are already very well established over. Cycles, I don't believe are a very good stablecoin. Right now, at least, right? In the future, like you said, if there is tons of demand, maybe it could be used for that. But I think HTTP requests are maybe a part of the solution to stablecoins. I don't think it's going to be usher in a new era, except for maybe by porting stablecoins that already exist over. That's my first thought, I guess.
Man, if I was you and I knew how to do all of that, I would probably be porting every single stable coin right now onto ICP. I'd be the money printer go burr machine. But that's really really exciting. I know there's a lot of networks. Some of them compete because they're very common, like USDT and USDT on Ethereum. Everybody and their mom has an Ethereum address, and then I think some of them compete more with price. So, for example, when it comes to stablecoins, I do like USDC. I also like USDT. The reason I like USDT is because I feel they just have so much power and influence that I don't think they're going anywhere. I think these are, I don't want to use negative words, but I think they're like a mob, right? So in a way, I want to side with those guys. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories about what happened to Terra Luna and all that, but anyway. However, when it comes to competing with price, for example, I like to use the BEP20 network with Binance because it's so cheap. If you get sent stable coins back and forth, I think it's efficient. When it comes to stable coins and currencies, I think that is probably one of the most, I guess, necessary features is transaction cost. So when I use my debit card or my credit card, I don't see anything right from firsthand, but I know there's like a 2.9% or fee, or some of them have like a monthly fee that the actual shop vendors or whatever use. But I would like to see something on the internet computer with a stable coin. Now, I don't know what it's going to be backed by, if by cycles, if by porting USDC or USDT or something. But I think if we get a wallet to support some sort of stablecoin that runs on the internet computer, I think that can be an extremely cheap solution to run money that can directly compete with something like central bank digital currencies. So you can, the moment that I can buy something on AliExpress for $199 or $157 US dollars or something like that, and get it shipped to my home, or I can go to the store and be like, hey man, all I want is this, I don't know, one beer, right? Or one candy, right? And I can pay that with my phone, and it can go instantly, and the fees are so low that it's negligible. Like, I'll just do it. I think that is the moment when we have basically discovered the holy grail of stable coins.
Yep.
But at the same time, it could be a threat to the current fiat establishment. So I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
I mean, I feel like that is my dream in crypto, right? Like, I want to just go to my local, here it's called Brookshire's in Texas. want to walk in with my phone with USDC on the internet computer, and I want to directly pay Brookshire's for my stuff. I don't want some credit card with Visa and all their rules and fees in the way. I just want to do that. I want to go to Amazon and just pay. And that's going to be possibly the first actual true mainstream adoption, practical use case of crypto is just making payments way better, way more efficient, way cheaper.
That's actually one of my dreams with Bitcoin integration. So kind of getting Bitcoin on the internet computer where it's fast enough and also secure enough, so it's not like a bridge, to do that kind of thing. So when I first learned about crypto, I was super excited. And maybe it was a fantasy, right? Maybe I was like imagining things in my head or whatever. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a new money. And it's not backed by any state. It's backed by computer nerds. I don't know back then, but it was that's what I thought in 2013, 2014. That's what I thought. And I was super excited about it. I didn't have any money to buy any, but I was super excited about it. And but that's my dream. Like I live currently, I'm in Mexico, and there's corner stores, for example, everywhere. And I'm not talking about illicit corner stores, but like, Coca-Cola's, candy bars, chips, stuff like that. And if I can imagine a future where somebody goes and pays in Bitcoin or in stablecoin with their little phones, and they pay like 75 cents American dollars or something for something, I think that is number one. I think that's a huge threat for any country's fiat currency. But I also think that is a form to be free, kind of like from the banking system and from being monitored and being, everybody knowing what you're doing, who your account belongs to, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I also want to be clear in a way when it comes to fiat. I'm not necessarily against countries issuing their own currencies for their national governments or them implementing it. To me, it's more of a privacy matter and more of a central banking matter. So when countries, but not just countries, also the central banks start printing and printing and printing and printing, they're devaluing from the hard work that people put into their currency. So for example, if the US dollar didn't print any money, the amount of influence that the United States has because of the military back in the day, because of exports, the US dollar would just keep going up, 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 up. I mean, $1 would probably buy you, like, you could probably buy like a Ford Mustang for like $2,000 brand new, right? But what happens is the value goes up and they print more. So then they keep it down. And then the value starts to go back up and then they just print more to keep it back down. And then people don't get angry because their money is worth kind of the same. Now, they're not keeping up with it. So you're getting like 10% inflation or something like that, 9.1 or whatever, 9.3. But if they didn't print all this money, right, the money that you work for and the exports, well, not the United States doesn't export that many things, but other countries, the things that you're exporting, it would make your currency, because of your hard work, be worth more and more and more and more. Right? You'd be wealthier because of your exports, right? Not just the amount of money that you made from selling them, but the amount of money that it's now worth more because it keeps on going up. But the central banks just print it and keep it back down. So that's one of my things that I'm not a fan of fiat, because I think the value of a currency is the collective value of every single person that builds every single thing, and then they export it, right? So I think if a country works really hard and exports like 50,000 tons of bananas and oranges or whatever, I think their currency should become more valuable, right? That's the point of the Forex market. The currency becomes valuable. Other countries they buy more things and it goes back down. But it's not what's happening, right? The currency goes up, they print more and they keep it back down. And then other countries keep on buying more and more. And this whole, I guess, scam, I would call it. But I'm kind of getting distracted. But do you guys think we can have on the internet computer a stable coin that isn't tied to any fiat currency? So all of the most popular stable coins today are all tied to the US dollar. And I'm not against US dollar or anything, but it's a fiat currency in and of itself, right? So we're making a currency to be stable, but then we're pegging it to something that used to be the most stable, but now isn't that stable, at least not today. And it's, we're making a crypto that works like a fiat, right? So do you guys think that we can build a stable coin that is truly stable, that's not tied to fiat currencies? Do you think that's possible? And how do you guys think that could be done? on technology like the internet computer.
Well,
I just wonder what it would be
yeah.
stable relative to.
Yeah, exactly. So what would it be like? Probably something that will buy you the same. So okay, so for example, look at this: the consumer price index, right? The consumer price index is a basket of goods, and then this basket of goods gives us the price in dollars of a whole bunch of goods, and then that is aggregated to give us the inflation numbers, right? So
Yeah.
is it possible, and this will probably break so many laws and be securities
Of
whatever, but it's
course.
theoretical. But yeah, I know, but theoretically speaking, could there be some sort of and not an XO. I know there's not XMR. What is it called? The one that internet computer uses.
Yeah,
That's the basket of all
XDR.
the XDR, and
Yeah.
XDR, which is a basket of all of the fiat currencies. Right. That's no good because those are still fiat currencies. But something that is tied to all of the items, right, that are in the consumer price index, but it maintains the same purchasing power always through math, through technology. I don't know. But do you guys think that is something that could be possible? And let's forget about if it's legal or if it's a security or anything like that. But is that possible with our current technology to build a stable coin that really does like stays the same?
Uh, from what I learned about that, that's the thing is that you can have this idea of what you want, but then making it work. I read some things about the stable coins and all that, and it's very hard to keep in a stable manner without any security threats. So there are all these different vectors that can be used against being stable. So I'm not sure there is a way to prevent from all this inflation and all that using computers or technology. Well, I mean, on paper for sure, but making all that work in the current system with all the power from banks and politics and all that, I think that's what makes all this very difficult in real life. I mean, of course, on paper, I agree 100% with what you said. I would love to be able to pay directly to the person I'm buying from and getting rid of all these different intermediaries and or maybe making it in a way that made sense, but it's very difficult. Yeah, it's something. It's very interesting.
So think of like this. Currently the fiat system, and this is something that's been argued by friends that I have that are very pro fiat. I know you guys are like, what? Somebody's like super pro. There are people that are very pro fiat. Is if you have something like gold, right, back in the mercantilist system, or something like Bitcoin, where the value, because it's scarce, the value keeps going up and up and up and up. People aren't going to use it, right? You're going to sell a bunch of things, export, production, factories, and then you're going to keep your money because it's going to be worth more next year, right? So why would I spend my Bitcoin if it's going to 100K, right? That's the mentality I had. I remember I think it was this year, last year, my suspension on my SUV was kind of broken, right? I was going on the speed bumps and it was like clack, clack. And I was like, oh, dang it, man, that's going to be expensive. Like, I don't want to buy this. And I had some Bitcoins, and I think the price was $54,000 per Bitcoin. I didn't have $54,000 in Bitcoin, per Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, dude, I really don't want to spend my Bitcoin because it's going to go to 100K or, it was going to go up or whatever. And I
Yeah,
always like to store them. Even Bitcoin the most maxis of Bitcoin maximalists want to store the Bitcoin. So I didn't want to do it. And eventually I gave it. I was like, no, it's my suspension. I have to go buy it. So, I pulled some out and the whole suspension, right. And it was like, all the, I don't know what it's called, but all the pieces and whatever. But I didn't want to, right. I didn't want to spend it. So if Bitcoin at its current state became the de facto currency of everything, I think it would depress the economy, right? Because people won't want to spend it. So they're going to be like, no, 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 I'm keeping my Bitcoin, which is good if you're holding Bitcoin because it's going to go up. but it's bad because you're not going to have economic activity. So one of the biggest things that fiat proponents say is that because we have a fiat system that is regulated by monetary policy or by fiscal policy, or by what the banks do and what the government does, that's not going to be a problem. If the economy gets too hot and it starts inflating, we'll have monetary policy, we'll increase the interest rate. We'll have fiscal policy and increase taxes. If it starts getting too cold, we'll have more government spending. We'll decrease the interest rates or whatever. So there's kind of like these people behind the currency whose main job, supposedly, right, is to keep it worth the same. Because when your money is worth the same, you're no longer thinking about storing it, and you're also not thinking of spending it like super, super fast. You're thinking of like, what do I actually need? Like, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna get paid this much, and then if I need a car, I'm gonna buy a car. If I need a house, I'm gonna buy a house. You're thinking of what you need and what you want to spend it on and how you're going to work to acquire more money, more so than you're thinking of keeping it, or spending it as fast as you can because it's not going to be worth anything in the future, right? So with the current technology, this is just an idea that I'm thinking. Do you guys think, or let me just say my idea, could it be possible to, instead of having governments who do government spending and government taxing, and central banks who increase the interest rate for bonds or whatever, or decrease the interest rate to inject more into the money supply, do you guys think we could make a crypto, now that we have the internet computer, now that we have HTTP outcalls and access to tons of information, that does the job of a centralized authority, right? So like the Fed, like the United States federal government, that it does that job automatically, not piloted by any person, right? So if it's too hot, it burns money out of your own wallet. Or if it's too cold, it gives you more free money. Do you guys think we can do something like that?
Yeah, so I don't want to encourage anyone to do anything illegal, so we'll throw that aside. Okay.
It's all theoretical,
Yeah.
for purposes.
So basically, imagine a system like MakerDAO. MakerDAO uses real collateral like USDC and Ether. Ether, you can call it real, I think, because that has a price that's not so volatile that it'd be worth nothing easily. So has multiple collateral types, and they are basically a decentralized central bank that messes with certain levers like interest rates and such to try to maintain price stability for their asset called DAI. And they just so happen to peg DAI to $1. So imagine on the internet computer using HTTP outcalls, we could do the same thing. We could say, okay, let's port over ICP, ETH, all kinds of different collateral types, USDC, and we could let people create these vaults, basically, where you lock up your ETH or USDC or your ICP, and you mint a new asset called whatever, we'll just call it stable. And the asset stable, instead of pegging it to $1, we'll peg it to the consumer price index for the United States using our own oracles that we build directly into the protocol. There you go. I mean, it's the same system. You just peg it to the consumer price index instead of US dollars. So I feel like that is an interesting thing people could experiment with.
So why would this be illegal? Like, why would this be something that
it's
can't
possibly
be done?
Unfortunately, it's possibly a derivative. So the CFTC, it might be just straight up illegal because it's not registered. Now, you could, I don't know how far we want to go down the legal road here, but there's all kinds of things you could do to work with the CFTC and to possibly persuade them that you don't need some of the regulations because of the decentralization, and you could build it to be compliant in a decentralized manner. I just don't think people have done that, but I've heard from their mouths, like people, I believe, working there, commissioners or what, that they are open to the idea that the spirit of the laws could be kept, and the letter might be getting in the way. So that's a possible path. Also, stablecoins, if certain legislation goes through in the United States, some asset-backed stablecoins, it might just straight up be illegal to do it without going through their path, which would probably have a lot of registrations and probably tons of money it would take to actually do it, which is so sad. And then anything that's like, I don't know, the regulations are coming. So it might not be illegal right this second, but, and also depends on your country. So the United States is not the world. So there's probably someone maybe listening right now. You can totally do it inside your country. As soon as it touches some
Kim
other
Il
country.
Jung is watching this video and is going to implement this in North Korea. No.
Technically, in North Korea, it probably wouldn't be illegal because
There you go.
make whatever law he wants. So
That's crazy. That's crazy. But anyway, guys, I like going to all these deep rabbit holes and everything, but kind of to stay within the subject of the video, HTTP outcalls. Is there anything else you guys would like to add, or we can go ahead and start finishing the video? But I love all this, Jordan. It's a complete pleasure to meet you in, well, not in real person, but in live video. Egido, super happy to have you back here. I always love your input and your artistic input. I know we're all kind of in one way or another computer nerds, but which I say that in a good way. And
Yeah, of course.
but anything else you guys would like to add on HTTP outcalls and maybe, I don't know, some other theoretical ideas we can deep dive into?
Well, I wanted to ask Jordan about what he thinks about the Bitcoin integration because I read some of his posts on the Dfinity forums, and that's something that people, when I told them that I was going to be in the podcast, that was the thing that they told me. Hey, ask him about what he thinks about the Bitcoin integration, and yeah, just his ideas about that.
sure. Did they have anything specific, like the security or how popular it might be, or just
Well, they asked me about security and also about yeah, they, as you may know, they are about time frames and all that, but that's a bit of a copium, I think. People really try to push a date and then things can get difficult. So let's just about the Bitcoin integration. What do you think it can mean for the internet computer and also the security aspect from it?
yeah. Okay, so realistically speaking, these types of integrations have, I mean, not in the technical sense, this integration is different, but being able to port Bitcoin to another blockchain is not new. We've been doing this for a few years now. So go look at other blockchains like Ethereum, like WBTC, and other ways of wrapping. Go look at what they have achieved, and I don't think we're going to achieve more than that in the short term. So it's not like as soon as the feature launches that every Bitcoiner is going to be like, oh my goodness, I can port to the internet computer now. No, I highly doubt that. But it will open the ability to port to the internet computer for the first time. And if we build interesting use cases for the Bitcoin, then over time, we might see adoption similar to Ethereum and other chains that already port Bitcoin. I don't think people are going to care that much in the short to medium term about the security of the bridge. It's just another bridge. I just don't think consumers, generally speaking, are going to think that much about it. Now, if a project gets hacked, then they think about it, and that project probably, dies. So we might have an advantage there. But then we need to analyze the security model. They're spending a ton of time and doing a lot of very interesting work on it, which fundamentally and theoretically, I think it's quite sound, just based on my own judgments, right? I'm not a cryptographer. I am a software engineer, and I do enjoy, reading and poking holes in it. So the problem is that the threshold ECDSA technology that a lot of the Bitcoin integration is based on only requires one third of the total signers to sign off on transactions. So if you have like a 30 to 40 node subnet, I think 34 was the number of nodes that it's going to be deployed on at first. I could be wrong, but you only need 1/3 of those nodes. So 34, you probably can't see. 34 divided by 3 is 11.3. So you need 12 nodes 12 node providers. If they're independent, by the way, if they're independent, then you would need 12 independent parties to come together and decide we want to steal all of the Bitcoin that's stored here. So the problem is that 12 is a relatively low number. It's relatively high if you think of Nakamoto coefficients and the fact that mining pools have super high or are very centralized. Ethereum proof of stake is relatively centralized. Like if you just think of strictly the number of independent entities that are necessary to start breaking the system down. So, but 12 in this case would allow you to, I think, literally do anything with the key. So you could literally, I think, literally steal all Bitcoin that is stored with the keys that are stored in the threshold ECDSA subnet. And there's only going to be one of those at first, and it's going to be backed up. So that seems like something to consider. And then consider that these 12 entities are static entities. They don't change because there's no node rotation or shuffling right now. So once a subnet's created, that's basically the subnet forever, unless a node crashes or there might be a few reasons that you might need to take your node out and put a new one in. But it's not built into the protocol to shuffle everything. So you can have collusion happen over time. That's what concerns me. What doesn't concern me, though, is the fact that these entities that are currently custodying are relatively trusted. They've been running the protocols probably since the beginning, so we can trust them. But then that's going back to the centralized trust model that we're trying to get away from. So it's not ideal yet. I would want to see the subnet size greatly increased. I would want to see node rotation. I'd want to see things like secure enclaves so that it's even harder to break into the nodes, and maybe some other things. So I would just say, it's not this perfect, amazing thing that will solve all our problems, but it'll be interesting to see what people do with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
just one question, one last question. Some people also asked me about, for example, people who are not into programming for the internet computer. Where would you point them for a start? Let's say someone just hear about the internet computer and they want to start like playing with it, maybe not in a serious manner, but where would you point them?
Yeah, internetcomputer.org. I would just start at the main websites to just get a feel for it. And then if you want to actually start programming, if you are a web developer, then I would take you to Azle, github.com/demergentlabs/Azle. Just follow the documentation there. I think the documentation is pretty good. It'll get even way better over time, but it will walk you through the basic concepts of creating a canister in TypeScript and JavaScript. That's probably the easiest way to get going as a web developer. If you're not a web developer, unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult for you to get started learning Motoko or Rust, because Rust is an extremely difficult language and Motoko is an extremely new language. So, if you're completely new, you don't know TypeScript or JavaScript yet, you might just go with Motoko because you can follow all their tutorials. But yeah, I would either choose Motoko or Azle if you're just getting started, and internetcomputer.org or the Azle GitHub repo.
Right. Thank you.
All right, guys. So we're getting to just about an hour, so we're gonna close this. But again, thank you, Jordan, lastmjs, for joining us. Thank you, Egido Val. Everybody who's still watching, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on the bottom of the video. I've also added all of our guests' Twitters, and Egido, I think, has a YouTube on the description below. So go follow Jordan. Go follow Demergent Labs with Azle, that's how I'm describing it, a translation from Rust and common languages to the internet computer. Go follow Egido. He is with, he's an artist, so I think most of you know Egido, but if you don't, with ICPSquad and WAGMI Dystopian Club and other projects that I'm sure he's working on. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's a pleasure having both of you here. Anything last words you guys want to add?
Thank you, everyone, and of course, thank you, Jordan. It's been a pleasure to meet you because I haven't met you before, and I think it has been a very interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from your projects. And thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me, and just everybody, just I don't know, go make something beautiful and
Yeah.
worthwhile. So.
All right, guys. So thank you everybody for joining us, and go make something beautiful. I'm Victor ICP Squad. Catch you guys next time.